Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for being here with us tonight for this public hearing on truth in taxation of the Southside Independent School District. The time, please let the record show there's a quorum present. Jesse Hernandez present. Ms. Katie Farias?
Present.
Ms. Brenda Olivares?
Present.
Ms. Margarita Morales Garza?
Present.
Ms. Lisa L. Salazar?
Present.
Ms. Mary Silva?
Present.
Ms. Maribel Unger Robles?
Present.
Thank you. The time is now 5:31 p.m. on Wednesday, September 20th, 2023. As President, I, Jesse Hernandez, call this public hearing of truth in taxation of the Southside Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. At this time, I'd like to welcome Ms. Margarita Morales Garcia to welcome our visitors and guests.
Welcome students, staff, community members, distinguished guests, and those watching at home. We welcome you into our boardroom, and I just want to wish our football team the best of luck this Friday against Medina Valley, and wish our superintendent, Mr. Ramirez, a happy early birthday. So.
All right. Thank you. Moving on, please note that this meeting is being held and has been posted in accordance with Government Code Chapter 551, the State of Texas Open Meetings Act. And at this time, we do not have any public comment. So we'll move on to presentation. The only presentation is informational on the proposed tax rate for 2023-2024. Superintendent Ramirez?
Good evening, Board of Trustees, staff, and community. We have our interim CFO, Mr. Larry Garza, present the tax rate and the process that was used to calculate the tax rate.
Welcome, Mr. Garza.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and serve the community at large for Southside. I thank you, Board Chair, Board of Trustees, Superintendent, for providing me the opportunity to be here and also to be able to be present to present this information to you. My goal is to provide as much information as I can for you and be totally transparent. I have reviewed the information that we have, so I'd like to be able to move forward. This presentation is a public tax hearing in accordance with state law. There are certain components with it that flow with it. I'm going to go through those and provide you all of the data elements. I will let you know that I did check with Mo Casey today to verify this morning all of this information to make sure that we are up to date on everything, and they are concurring. I just spoke to them again about 5 minutes ago. They wanted to make sure that everything was good to go, and we are. So the information you receive is the most current and accurate information in accordance with state law. So we will start, and I'm not very coordinated, so I rarely do this in my 36 years before, so I'll see if I can get this thing done without messing it up, okay? And without hitting and breaking this. So the tax, as posted, the background for this is the proposed tax rate for 23-24 through the public hearing, which will be reviewed with you as well in the hearing, at conclusion of the hearing and with the regular board meeting. It does provide many elements for review and does establish the tax rates for the M&O side and the debt service. So with that, I'll continue. I'm going to be going through a series of slides with you to show you, and you have them before you with the truth and taxation information. I'd like to go over them with you on a summary basis. Yes, thank you. Let me see. Did I turn it off? How do I get this thing going?
Sir, I'll get it.
Could you go forward?
It's going to go this one. This will be the next one.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm used to a different one. So in this packet, we have several items. We're going to be going through the certified roll as well as the agenda item in the 2023 tax roll, and that specified certain requirements over the most recent state legislative session, where they address the $40,000 homestead and the 2023 $100,000 homestead, but it's also subject to some November election for your information at this time. We're also going to go over shortly a designation of officer resolution, which is also a required state element. The tax rates and agenda item will go into those acronyms as well as the 2023 tax calculation worksheet. That's a very comprehensive document. I had it reviewed and prepared by Mo Casey as well. They are the state experts. I'm familiar with them for the last 15 years. They have provided testimony to the state legislature and have been very successful. The resolution of the board to set the tax rate, I'm going to present to you to look at that, but that's so you can just see, and we move forward and go into the regular board meeting, and then it's going to be adopted if you wish to adopt it at that time. And then notice of adopted tax rate. I'm going to go through the data elements. That too is a comprehensive document. We have confirmed and received information from the county appraisal district, which has provided us a certified roll, which is a state requirement as well. We've gone in and looked up all the information. He has certified it. That is duly prepared by him in accordance with state law. We've also included all kinds of data elements that he has provided us with that, including the value of properties under protest, when they were submitted, the assessment rolls, and he also provided a supplemental row. I'm providing you the shortened version of that. He provided a packet about that thick that gives you all the details. I don't think you want to see that. We'll give you what is required by law to be able to look at and review, and it does deal with the increase for the state mandated homestead. Continuing, we have the resolution here that outlines what we need to do, where the board of trustees will review as a governing board what we have to do, and then there is a resolution that outlines before you all of the data elements that need to be done. I apologize for the smaller script, but you have the availability to look at it. I won't go through all of it, other than this is a required resolution that is proposed and meets all legal requirements. Within the context of the rates per $100 value. It outlines information for you on the property tax rates. So you'll see last year's maintenance and operation, or the M&O as most people refer to it, it outlines that rate there at 0.924. And then the last year's debt rate, the debt service rate, as other people call it. So the total tax rate was 1.25. You all approved that would have been last year as we went through this current year. This is new, no new tax revenue rate, which is a little bit different as a part of the state legislature. So that's a different element in their calculation, which has been taken into account by Mo Casey as they have provided us their information. So this year's proposed approval of the maintenance and operations at 0.775 plus. We have this year's debt service rate, which will be at 0.032888. You'll know that if you compare those, you'll see those, they relate to the prior year. There were some compressed rates, so this year's voter-approved tax rate will be 1.10423. That's because of the compression at the state level through legislation. The resolution of the board to set the tax rate, this also provides you different elements on here. Once again, it's a recapitulation of a lot of the information in other documents. It continues to go forward, and it does indicate that we are meeting today, September the 20th, and we are, upon approval, we'll be requesting that the board chair or the president, as well as secretary, sign off on this for submission to the state of Texas. Notice of public meeting, this is a recapitulation of all that other information we've talked about in a different format. So it goes forward and talks about comparing the budgets from prior to current year, and it gives you the values. Then we talked about the total appraised value, which we've discussed that we have a lot of information from that on property values, and we have the document that we provided you. Will be provided you in terms of the worksheet. The bonded indebtedness, which is our bond debt, is in the subsequent page, and it gives that out as well. And it shows a comparison of the levy and on the average residence. And it continues with the legal format that they have, once again laying out the fund balances for the maintenance and operations, which is at 31, and then the debt service or the interest and sinking at 8.1. That concludes that information and actually concludes the presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to be able to address those, to be able to address any information on these forms.
Thank you, Mr. Garza. Any questions for Mr. Garza?
Thank you. And I don't know if I directed to Mr. Ramirez or you, but I'm a little bit confused because we just went over this in one of the last board meeting. Can you explain the difference or why we're doing this again?
The reason why it was done was because at the time, according to the CFO, TA had informed us of the condensed tax rate because of the increased property values, that instead of $1.25, it would be $1.10. So at the time, the posting was at $1.25. So in the past meeting, the CFO at the time was presenting what we had in place, what had happened, and that we would come to this meeting to have the correct tax rate, which is at $1.10.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Just have a comment.
Ms. Salazar?
Can we correct line 40? There's a done.
Which,
So I just listed on line 40.
line 40?
It's 20223. We need to make it 2023 because it is a tax document.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
For bringing that to our attention.
Good catch. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Garza.
Thank you. That concludes my part in this hearing. Thank you.
sir. Okay, at this time, do I have a motion to? Is there anyone from the community who would like to ask any questions in regard to the proposed tax rate? Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Salazar makes the motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I second.
Ms. Morales makes the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the time is now 5:43 PM. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you in about 15 minutes. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this regular called school board meeting of the Southside Independent School District. Please let the record show that there's a quorum present. Jesse Hernandez present. Ms. Katie Farias.
Present.
Ms. Brenda Olivares.
Present.
Ms. Margarita Morales Garcia.
Present.
Ms. Lisa L. Salazar.
Present.
Ms. Mary Silva.
Present.
Ms. Maribel Unger Robles.
Present.
The time is now 6 p.m. on Wednesday, September 20th, 2023. As President, I, Jesse Hernandez, call this regular meeting of the Southside Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. At this time, I'd like to welcome Ms. Brenda Olivares to welcome our visitors and guests.
Good afternoon. Welcome to all our guests, parents, students, and staff. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I want to thank you for joining us for our monthly board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Olivares. Please note that this meeting is being held and has been posted in accordance with Government Code Chapter 551, State of Texas Open Meetings Act. If during the course of this meeting, the board should determine that a closed or executive meeting or session of the local board is required, then such closed or executive meeting or session can be held as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551. At this time, if we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Arms. March 9. March. Forward. March.
Thank you to our color guard students. At this time, we'll move on to public comment, and I'd like to invite Ms. Farias.
The board will now hear comments from those persons who've signed up to speak pursuant to the board policy BED local. At regular board meetings, the board has allotted for public comment regardless of whether the topic is an item on the agenda posted with notice of the meeting. Individuals who wish to participate during the portion of the meeting designated for public comment must sign up before the meeting begins and shall indicate the agenda item or topic of which they would wish to address the board. Generally speaking, the individual's comments to the board shall not exceed 3 minutes per meeting. During the public comment portion of the meeting, the board will listen but will not engage in dialogue or debate with the speakers. The board has adopted specific complaint policies and specific procedures for presenting complaints. If the presiding officer determines the presentation during the portion of the meeting is a complaint, he or she will respectfully ask the person to stop speaking and to use the board's adopted policies and procedures to have the matter heard through the appropriate channels. The board expects the members of the audience to behave in a polite and orderly fashion during this and all other portions of the meeting. Disruptive conduct will not be tolerated.
Thank you, Ms. Farias. At this time, I'd like to invite Ms. Jacqueline Rosales to the podium. Good evening, Ms. Rosales. Welcome.
Thank you. Not quite sure, this is my first time talking, so I don't know if my timer starts when I start my speech. Good evening, my name is Jacqueline Rosales. I'm a teacher, a parent, and an invested Southside community member working diligently to provide educational opportunities and financial resources for our Cardinals. Today, I want to emphasize the critical importance of maintaining a classroom ratio of 22 students to 1 teacher. Unfortunately, class sizes of 23 to 30 is becoming the norm in elementary. The 22 to 1 ratio is not just a number, it represents a cornerstone of effective education that can profoundly impact the learning experiences of our children. First and foremost, a 22 to 1 max classroom ratio fosters an environment where teachers can provide personalized attention to their students. In smaller classes, educators have the ability to get to know each student's unique strengths and weaknesses, allowing them to tailor their teaching methods to meet individual needs. This personalized approach helps struggling students catch up while also challenging advanced learners to excel, ultimately leading to better educational outcomes for all. A lower classroom ratio promotes a more inclusive and equitable educational experience. When teachers have fewer students to manage, they can invest more time in building positive relationships with students and families and meeting the diverse needs of students. This is particularly important for students with special needs and those who require additional support to succeed academically. A 22-to-1 classroom ratio also has a positive impact on classroom discipline and behavior management. With fewer students to supervise, teachers can create a more orderly and focused learning environment. This in turn allows students to concentrate better on their studies and reduces disruptions, leading to a more productive and enjoyable classroom experience for everyone. Smaller class sizes have been shown to improve teacher job satisfaction and retention. When educators can devote more time to teaching and less time to classroom management, they are more likely to stay in the profession and continue to inspire and educate our children. In conclusion, the 22-to-1 classroom ratio is not just a recommendation by the Texas Education Agency, but a critical factor in ensuring high-quality education. It enables personalized instruction, fosters inclusivity, enhances positive behavior outcomes, and supports teacher well-being. I ask that we continue to invest in hiring highly certified teachers immediately to decrease class sizes and provide students with the best learning environment. Southside ISD is on track to our goal of becoming an A-rated district. Meeting the ratio of 22-to-1 or smaller class sizes will ensure we meet this goal. As we invest in our educational systems, let us remember the importance of maintaining this ratio to provide the best possible learning environment for our students, who are the future of our society. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rosales. Moving on to our consent agenda, do I have a motion for approval of items A and B?
I'll make a motion to consider consent items A through B.
Ms. Katie Faria makes the motion. Do I have a second? Ms. Lisa L. Salazar seconds. Ms. Farias?
Yes.
Ms. Olivares?
Yes.
Ms. Morales Garcia?
Yes.
Salazar? Ms. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Rangel Robles?
Yes.
Not just unanimous, yes. Motion carries. Moving on to presentations. Item B, Campus Student VIP Award winners for August 2023. Superintendent Ramirez?
Good evening, Board of Trustees, staff, and community. We continue to recognize students who exhibit good attendance, grades, and discipline. To recognize our VIP students for this week, we have Ms. Rincon and Ms. Gallego.
Good evening, Ms. Rincon.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Mr. President, Superintendent Ramirez, our community members, and our staff. We're so grateful to be back here again. This is the start of our school year. As you know, in August we didn't have VIPs yet, but guess what? We have now about to introduce to you the 19th class of VIPs for Southside ISD. This all started back in November of 2021. And it has now grown into a prestigious and excited program. It was developed in a way to recognize students for demonstrating district-wide behavior expectations. Cardinal VIPs are nominated and selected by campus leadership teams. They are students that are selected based off their behavior, attendance, academic performance, and overall spirit of being a Southside Cardinal. This is a program that the Communications Department, along with the Student Services Department, are very proud of and excited about. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Ms. Alejandra Gallego with Student Services to call out our VIPs.
Welcome, Ms. Gallego.
Very excited.
So from Menchaca, we have Aiden Vasquez. For Freedom, Michael Martinez. For Gallardo, Clemente Fernandez. For Heritage, Gibson Davila. For Pierce, Isis Douglas. For Lozoya, Giovanni Valladares. And he is representing the 8th grade football team tonight and was unable to be here. Matthew, we have Emerald Aguirre. And for the high school, we have Evelyn Diaz Herrera.
Congratulations.
Parents, please feel free to come on up. Big smiles, everybody. Congratulations. Can we all say VIPs? VIPs. All right, great job. Okay, parents, you're all yours. Hashtag Cardinal VIPs.
All right, congratulations. Okay, moving on to attendance awards for August 2023. Superintendent?
Mr. Board President, we continue with the attendance recognition for our district. The campuses have held steadily from 92 to 94% from the start of the school year. And to recognize our elementary campus and secondary campus with the highest attendance we have, our PEAMS Director, Ms. Sanchez.
Welcome, Ms. Sanchez.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Ramirez, and Southside community. There are a lot of great things happening here at Southside ISD, starting with our Attend Today and Achieve Tomorrow attendance awareness campaign. Each month, Southside ISD will kick off a new initiative committed to bringing awareness to the importance of student attendance and education. Research shows that when children miss school regularly, this includes excused absences, they're missing out on fundamental skills such as reading and math instruction, and they often struggle to catch up academically upon return. Parents, you are critical partners in ensuring that your children get to school on time and every day, so that he or she has every opportunity possible. Beginning the month of September, students across the district are taking the pledge to attend school. Here are some of our students that have taken the pledge to attend school. Each of our campuses has planned monthly attendance acknowledgements and initiatives to encourage good attendance habits. And we already see that happening right now. With that said, I'd like to move on to our August monthly ADA winners. Our winner for the elementary is our very own Pierce Elementary School. Thank you, Pierce, for setting the standard so high so early in the school year. As you can see, Pierce has ended the month of August with 95% attendance, so great job. Also followed along very closely behind is our very own Gallardo at 94.6%, Freedom at 94.5%, Heritage at 94.2%, and Menchaca at 91.7%. So a round of applause for everyone. Ms. Scott, take the honor on behalf of Pierce Elementary School.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Hold on one second. I also want to acknowledge our secondary campus, which is La Soya Middle School. Thank you, La Soya, for ensuring that our families, students, and staff know that attendance matters at La Soya.
Thank you very much. Thank you for creating a separate category, because we could never meet the
As you can see, our campuses are working very, very hard to acknowledge our students, and it's showing. La Jolla ended the month of August with a 93, sorry about that. With a 93%, with the high school followed very closely behind at 92.7%. And Matthew at, and forgive me for not having this memorized, Matthew, I apologize. 91.4%. Thank you all for your dedication to our students and families of Southside ISD. Can I get a picture with you guys on the board?
Congratulations, guys.
Congratulations. Good job.
Great. So proud of you. Keep up the great work.
Okay, moving on to review of financial statements for August 2023 and federal programs update. Superintendent Ramirez?
To give an update on the finances for the month of August and for federal programs, we have our interim CFO, Mr. Garza, and our federal programs director, Dr. Olguin.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I know you've been here as little time as I have. You want to introduce yourself? So we thank you for the opportunity to share information. We have reviewed the information that we had. We feel that we can be a little bit more concise with you in providing you additional information. We're also going to be looking forward to talking to you about what is it you really want to see, or how can we help you and look at different kinds of elements. We are planning to be able to present something to you on Monday at that scheduled meeting. We want to enhance it. I want to give you something besides charts. And I want to give you something that gives you the financial statements in a presentation that you can look at. But I also want your opinion. What do you want to see? So anything that you guys can share with us at one point in time, it would be really appreciated. I will have a preliminary statement for you for the upcoming meeting on Monday. But I felt what we had right now, August is a very, very difficult month because we're closing out the fiscal year ending. The accounting cycles are what they are. If everybody paid their bills and we get all of our money by August 31st, it would be a miracle across the country. People invoice, we send payments. So within the accounting cycle, we have to distinguish with those financial transactions that occurred in August and were received in August for federal and local purposes. So we have to keep the records open. So we'll be able to get a better handle on it as we move forward. Also, as you know, the external auditors will be coming in and joining us as they do to complete the financial records. You also know that they will be completing their records, and we will have a board meeting that must be conducted before January 28th of next year, because we're just closing it. They haven't come to visit us for this closeout, so we want to be able to give you more solid and accurate information. That's why we're not prepared at this time to give you anything. But we'll give you a preliminary on Monday. But we would like to have maybe some input from you as to what you would like to see, so we can incorporate those ideas into these documents. The federal side is in the same position.
Thank you, Mr. Garza. Before I open it up to questions, I'd like if you can share a little bit about your background, and I know the community is probably wondering who you are, and also Dr. Olguin as well, if y'all can share a little bit about each of yourselves.
We'll let ladies go first.
Thank you.
So good evening, President Hernandez, members of the board, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Ramirez, and esteemed community members of Southside ISD. My name is Melissa Holguin, and I am the new Director of Federal Programs and now a very proud Cardinal. So today, just as Mr. Garza said, we're going to provide a broad overview of awarded federal entitlements, and then you can have the floor to talk about yourself and your background. And as you know, I'm coming by way of Somerset ISD. where I was for the past 7 years as the Executive Director of Advanced Academics and the leader of our early college high school. So I'm going to, like he said, we're just going to provide you with a broad overview of these awarded grants, and I'm going to start with the 2022-23 federal awards. So we'll go ahead and get that. You'll see here that this slide displays the Every Student Succeeds Act. These are the ESSA entitlements, and they're designed to supplement the basic school program. They're each tied to a specific student population and or purpose. So these are all mostly our title programs. On the next slide, you'll see some special revenues. These next slides display special program entitlements to include IDEA as well as career and technical education. Here are some other federal grants from 22-23. You'll see the ESSER 3, American Recovery Plan Act, some COVID safety, Gear Up, Head Start, and the JET grant, which is a Texas Workforce Commission grant. I wanted to also provide you with the 23-24 awarded grants, and you'll see them in the same order. And these are the awards that we have available for the 23-24 school year, along with our special programs grants. You see school safety here with the silent panic alert and the school safety standards formula grant with the award provided, and the career and technical grant. Some other grants also include Gear Up UT Austin, which serves our 12th grade cohort, our Head Start grant, which serves our youngest children, and our Hispanic College and Universities grant, and these other City of San Antonio Eco Scholars grant, or Sustainability grant from the City of San Antonio, and a Pierce Schools grant for $7,000. So as Mr. Garza says, we are closing up Cycle 3, which is the 22-23 school year, and requesting reimbursement for those drawdowns. And we are also preparing our 23-24. Due this month, on the 29th, is the 22-23 compliance grants to TEA. But I just wanted to also use this opportunity to thank you all for the opportunity to serve our students here in Southside. And we're extremely grateful for the opportunity to be stewards of these federal entitlements. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Olguin. Any questions for Dr. Olguin? Okay, thank you, Dr. Olguin.
Thank you.
Welcome to Southside.
Thank you.
I am Larry Garza. And I'll give you a very short, brief synopsis of my history. Even though I'm pretty old, I have a long history. I was born in Cotula, Texas. My parents were migrants. They finally settled in Corpus Christi, where I went to and received a public education. I am the second child of a family of 4. So we were migrants. We settled in Corpus. We went there. My mom and dad were brilliant, but didn't finish public education. They were just through the elementary. But my dad had a PhD in finance, because at a young age, when he was little, he would let people ride his tricycle for a dime. And he would sell the little videos for him to show him for a quarter. So he showed us the value of money and the value of public education. So we grew up with that. So we went to education. He made sure that we all got educated, and we did. I graduated from Miller High School in Corpus Christi, went to Texas A&I University in Kingsville, which no longer exists, it's A&M. And then I also got my MBA from there. So I've been very fortunate to work around a lot of great people that taught me a lot of great things. Right off the bat, I was in Corpus, so I was the first graduate of college that worked for Handy Andy grocery stores. They had 3 stores in Corpus, and I refused to go to Louisiana to work because I didn't want to leave Corpus Christi and my family. So then I couldn't find a job, and they made me the first one. So after 6 months of unloading trucks and stocking, I said, I'm not doing this more. I went to work with the state controller's office. I worked with the state controller's office in different areas around Corpus. I also worked Laredo and South Texas. I eventually became the enforcement field manager over a multi-county area for tax enforcement and taxpayer service. Then I was getting bored, so I went to work with Central Power and Light, which is a CPS of Corpus Christi. I worked as an internal auditor, rate analyst, and gained some more knowledge there from some great bosses and great peers. Then thereafter, I got bored with that because I was traveling basically 5 to 7 days a week. So I went back to the state controller's office because they recruited me again. I went to go back, and I was there for a week, and they transferred me to Brownsville, which I became the director of reinforcement in Brownsville, and worked there for years. And then they transferred me to San Antonio Northwest Field Office, where I became the director of reinforcement here. And then under Bob Bullock, he had a cost-saving move, and through attrition, I left my job through attrition, and then the Texas Higher Education Board, or the coordinating board, as some call it, hired me as the director of grant programs for the state of Texas for public education, as well public universities and private universities. So as you can see, I've been around a little bit, and then I finally settled back in San Antonio, where I worked with San Antonio ISD for 36 years, most recently retiring in December as a chief financial officer, after having done all of the different programs that they have. I started as assistant director, became the CFO. So I thank them for everything they did for me and my children. My wife is my soft side. She is a social worker, has an MSW. She works for the San Antonio ISD, has supervised counselors. She is currently over the McKinney-Vento, the homeless children and the foster. She is a noted professional across the country who has received numerous awards and has received a Lifetime Achievement Award on a national basis as well, and has taught at OLLU. So you have the money guy and you have the one that wants to give all the money away, which is great. And the Higher Education Board, I awarded $40 million of grants. So I would encourage everybody to look at those for their children, grandchildren, deals, whatever. So that is who I am. I am here, and I thank you for the opportunity. I just recently retired, and I was more than glad. I love the community. I serve the community. I'm here to help. So I thank you very much for the privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Garza. I appreciate you answering the phone and your willingness to join us here at Southside to work with us. Any questions or comments for Mr. Garza? Ms. Morales?
Thank you for sharing your story. A lot of your background was really relatable, as I'm sure it is to a lot of our parents and families at Southside. And thank you for coming out of retirement for us.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. I was getting bored at home watching and my wife makes me walk 2 miles every morning so that I can come to work. Thank you so much.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Garza.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on with our presentations for Gear Up Summer Camp. Superintendent Ramirez?
Mr. Board President, the Summer Gear Up took part in visits throughout the country. To talk about the student experiences, we have Mr. Tipton and Ms. Salas.
Good evening, Mr. Tipton. Ms. Salas, welcome.
Well, thank you. Greetings, school board members, President Hernandez, Superintendent Ramirez, and everyone. We are Amalia Salas and Ronald Tipton. We also have a wonderful young woman with us today that we'll introduce in just a minute. We represent Southside High School Gear Up, a program that's designed to get our students ready for the first year of college. We've done things like provide a new computer lab for the College and Career Center and science sensors for our teachers over the last year. Something that we organized in conjunction with our partner school, the University of Texas, is summer camp experiences for our students. This year, we had over 50 students participate in summer programs as varied as a TSI testing boot camp, the Texas A&M Construction Academy trip to Pennsylvania, a week-long camp on the UT campus in Austin, a Midwest bus tour of colleges around Chicago, a Dell Medical School week-long camp, and the Youth Leadership Summit in San Francisco, where our student, Reina Romero, gave an amazing speech to around 2,000 adults about her educational experiences. We have her here with us today, and we'd like to present her with a certificate that will pay for her to attend a SAT or AC preparation course. We'd also like her to say a few words to the board as well.
Welcome, Ms. Romero.
Thank you. Good evening, esteemed members of the board. My name is Reina Romero, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to speak to you about my experience at the 2023 NCEP Annual Conference, which was made possible through Gear Up. The Youth Leadership Summit was an event that brought together young leaders from all across the country and gave us the tools to develop teamwork and problem-solving skills to ultimately improve our leadership. I learned about the importance of effective communication, collaboration, and empathy when working with others. I am committed to applying these lessons not only in my own journey, but also in contributing to our school community. I am extremely grateful to Gear Up for making this experience possible. Thank you for your time and continued support.
Reina, before you take the pictures, could you share with the board de qué parte de México eres y de dónde vienes?
I was born in Ensenada, in Baja California, Mexico, and I moved to Texas a little over a year and a half ago. And I've been in Southside since the beginning of my junior year, and I am now a senior.
No, Reina, just real quick, I have the privilege of going to speak to, I'm doing it the next couple of weeks, going to speak to thousands of people, and every time I do it, my stomach hurts, and I know how difficult it is to do that, so to speak in front of 2,000 people, that's not an easy task, and just the way you did it today, it's pretty amazing, and I can't wait to see where you grow from here, so congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Okay, continuing on with our presentations and updates on the Department of Special Programs. Superintendent Ramirez.
Mr. Board President, to give an update on the special education STAR results, we have our Special Programs Director, Dr. Ernesto Salinas.
Welcome, Mr. Salinas.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Board President, Superintendent Ramirez, and the Southside community. My name is Dr. Ernesto Salinas, Director of Special Programs, and tonight I bring to this forum an update within the Department of Special Programs, specifically in the area of STAR performance of our special education population. As we recall, during the summer months, we were patiently awaiting the results from TEA to release of our STAR performance. And as that information started trickling in, we were able to take that information and consolidate it and use the same type of calculations that TEA itself uses to calculate special education. And what I'm speaking about is in special education, specifically for STAR, a student in special education has the opportunity to take one of two assessments. One is your traditional 3 through 8 EOC STAR assessment, and the other one is a STAR Alternative 2, also referred to as STAR Alt 2 in 3 through 8 and EOC. Now TEA takes both of those assessments and they combine them together to get a complete special education performance. So that's exactly what we did when we received those results. We were able to combine those results to get a special education performance for Southside ISD. And that's particularly important because we use that to compare the data across many years. As we can see in this depiction here, this is a representation of historical data across 3 years. And what we're showing here is our special education performances at the approaches level. We have it broken down by 3rd through 8th and our EOC assessments, and then we have finally an overall performance for the district. So let me talk through a little bit about the color schemes that we're seeing here. The purpose of these tables is to compare last year's 22-23 scores with the 2 previous years before it. So beginning in 2020, 2021, moving on to 21-22, and then finally last year, 22-23. So the color schemes are as follows. If it's green all the way across in all 3 years, then that means the 22-23 scores outperform the previous 2 years. On the other end of the spectrum, if the scores for the last 3 years are in red, then that means last year's 22-23 scores did not outperform the previous 2 years. And what we see in the middle with our yellows and our reds is, if there is a yellow, then that means there's 1 year where it did not outperform one of the 2 years. And the one that's not outperformed, it's indicated in red. So as you can see, what we see here, there's an abundance of green, which is excellent news. That means our students are making a lot of progress. Our special education students are making a lot of progress. The ones in yellows and red, those are indicators like, hey, we need to address that. We need to come back and see what is going on in these areas so we can make growth for our students. Overall, as we can see, and we see in the all right there, we are making drastic improvements from the past 2 years, beginning in 2020, 2021, where we started at 24, and in just 2 years, we almost doubled the performance at approaches level. The 21-22 was at a 39, and then finally this 22-23 school year was at a 47, so almost double, twofold there. So in summary, we are seeing overall improvements year after year with individual successes in 3 and 6th grade reading, English 2, 3rd through 8th grade math, 5th and 8th grade science, EOC biology, 8th social studies, EOC US history, and opportunities to grow in 4th and 5th grade reading, 7th and 8th grade reading, EOC English 1, and EOC Algebra 1. Our teachers and our staff here at Southside ISD have been working really hard to ensure that our students in special education are making gains, and it's definitely showing, and we're extremely proud of them. Our special education students are on an upward trend right now in our STAR performance, and we'd like to continue that trend. Questions?
Thank you, Dr. Salinas. Any questions for Dr. Salinas?
Asked, just in case somebody else has questions.
You're up.
Oh, well, lucky me. Dr. Salinas, I have a question. Can we go back to your chart?
Yes.
On your 8th grade math, tell us how, and I know you weren't in this position at the time, but tell us how we've moved from 18% to 100% on our 8th grade math.
That is an excellent question and excellent observation. Something changed last school year that traditionally wasn't in place. Historically, our 8th grade students in math took the 8th grade math STAR assessment. Last year, the change that occurred was that the mass majority of our 8th grade students transitioned to our Algebra 1 EOC assessment for last year. So you can see, yes, 100% of last year's students who took 8th grade math passed. Those students were less than 10 students who took that assessment, where the mass majority transitioned over to Algebra 2, which could be impacting those scores that we're seeing there with the 43 at approaches.
But you're still not bad off, even with the percentages on this, on the Algebra 1 side, because I know that's more of a difficult task for them.
Yes.
So good job, and thank you for the chart, because it's very visual.
Absolutely.
It's a lot more comprehensive.
Yes.
Dr. Salinas, just a follow-up question. For the Algebra 1, what was the size count for 2022 versus 2023?
I don't have the total numbers of testers off the top of my head, but I could say if we remove the middle school testers from Algebra 1, that 43 would change to a 52. Wasn't better than the previous year, 21-22, but it was better than the previous year before that at 50.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, nice job, appreciate it. Okay, moving on to update on the health clinic management, CareATC, for August 2023. Superintendent?
Mr. Board President, to give an update on the use of our medical clinic, we have Ms. Charity Salinas.
Good evening, Board President Hernandez, Superintendent Ramirez, Board of Trustees, Southside community and staff. I'm here to proudly present the Southside month of for CareATC for the month of August. And what we show is eligible employees that we have are 963 employees that are eligible to receive services at our CareATC clinic. Of those, 39 are eligible spouses, 272 are eligible dependents, and a total of 1,274 eligible members. We kind of have a breakdown as well as far as demographics of our member age, our average 30.5, with our 67.7% of our female population and 32% of male population. On our next slide, we are showing, as far as for the month, 222 total visits. Of those, we have healthcare visits of 202. We have 12 for labs. We have 8 for occupational health, giving us a total of 222 visits that we're seeing for the month of August. On the next slide, we can actually see the trend, the continued upward trend to increased participation by our employees. So if you can, as you can see from, of course, the month of July to August, that's pretty dramatic. And let me go back. Also, we kind of did a breakdown as well as far as appointments. It looks like the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are common days for our clinic to be used. Of course, as well as time frame between 8 and noon is a pretty popular time. And that concludes my presentation. Does anyone have any questions?
I do have a question. So that is a significant increase for August, and I know we don't have August prior year, but is that just beginning of the year type of things
I
that are
believe
getting
so.
done?
All the students are coming back, and so kind of it's with, with everything, the students are, sometimes they get sick and whatnot, and as well as staff members too. We kind of have noticed an increase in COVID numbers as well.
Understood. Thank you. Any other questions? Appreciate the update. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to new business, item number 1, discuss and consider approval of TEA other waiver. Superintendent Ramirez.
Mr. Board President, the request is for a homebound student to receive remote conferencing due to a recommended appropriate educational setting to earn ADA, and we have Dr. Spohr with the presentation.
Welcome, Dr. Spohr.
Good evening, Mr. Hernandez, Board of Trustees, Mr. Ramirez. Luann is giving you the form right now. We didn't have this on a slide because this is a particular case. It is one student, so trying to maintain the confidentiality of that case. What we have is a student who requires homebound instruction, but because of her fragile medical condition, it needs to be done remotely. And we would do that through the homebound services, through the special education program. This is a recommendation of the ARD committee. In order for us to receive funding from the state ADA funding for remote conferencing, we must request a waiver that is approved by the school board. So this waiver is particular to this case as long as the ARD committee deems it the most appropriate educational setting for the student.
Thank you, Dr. Spohr.
Yes, sir.
Any questions? No questions at this time. Do I have a motion for item number 1?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve the application of the other waiver with TEA as presented.
Ms. Lisa L. Salazar makes the motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Ms. Margarita Morales Garcia seconds. Ms. Farias?
Yes.
Ms. Olivares?
Yes.
Ms. Morales Garcia?
Yes.
Ms. Salazar?
Yes.
Ms. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Zanger Robles?
Yes.
9 yes, unanimous. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 2, discuss and consider approval of maximum class size waiver. Superintendent?
Mr. Board President, we have some classes exceeding 22-to-1 ratio due to the increase in enrollment. We have Dr. Spohr with the presentation.
Welcome again.
Thank you again. So this year, as we do most years, as we start the school year, we make plans in May, and folks move in, and they move in at different grade levels than what we have planned. So what we are bringing to you is the state-required request for a waiver for the 22-to-1 class ratio. which is required under education code for pre-kindergarten through 4th grade. And so what I've given you here is the most recent numbers we have, and these numbers change day to day. We get a report from the campus daily as to enrollment by grade level. And so you can see at Menchaca, we have 8 pre-kindergarten classes that are sitting above the 22-to-1. Each of those classes does have 2 adults in it, so they have a teacher and an aide in that class. Our kindergarten classes are not above the 22-to-1, they are at 22. We have seen a lot of growth, a lot of move-ins in that area, and so again, this is not where we want to sit. We are looking, actively looking for solutions to make sure that we are getting the numbers down where we need to be. One of our concerns is space as well. So in order to apply for the waiver, you have to list the why, and one of the reasons is space in a building. If we were to create a bunch of new classrooms at Menchaca, we would need to have portables or something else come in. Whereas we can do it with 2 adults in a classroom and go over by 1 or 2 children, then that is preferable for us at this point. Again, we're talking 2 kids over the limit on this at the most in that pre-K with the 2 adults in the classroom. When we look at the other 4 elementary schools, you can see I've divided up by 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade, and I can tell you that the Gallardo numbers have changed as of today. A few less. We made some movements as well. We do have some classes that are extremely large, and for those classes, we have posted for teachers. Again, when we start out at the end of the school year last year, anticipating for this year, we had 1 set of numbers. As folks move in, they move in, for example, at Pierce, they moved in at 3rd grade. So we've got some classes really big at 3rd grade in Pierce. So we need the waiver in order to be compliant with the law, but that is not where we're going to sit with those number of kids in the classroom. We're trying to be creative on what we can do as far as bringing in a 2nd adult in the room, a teaching assistant to help out, trying to find other qualified teachers that are out there who can join our team and help split up some of those larger classrooms. So it is not that we are saying we don't want to do anything to get those numbers down. We definitely do, but we also must disclose to the agency when our numbers go over this for any longer period of time. So at this point, we are within the first 6 weeks of school. We have hit more than 22-to-1 in these classrooms, and that does require a waiver with the board approval. Can I answer any questions about any of these numbers?
Thank you, Dr. Spore. Any questions for Dr. Spore?
Have we looked at options, like, for example, rezoning, redoing our boundaries to balance out the elementary schools? Because my understanding is some elementaries have more students and others don't have as many. Are there any plans to balance that out, you know?
So last spring, when we got the demographer's report and we came and we started talking about the potential to look at shifting some boundaries between, you know, our north zone campuses of Pearson, Gallardo, our south zone of Freedom and Heritage, and that buys us very little support for just a couple of years. But that will be a part of long-range planning that we will need to discuss. As you can see right now, Gallardo looks the worst, but Gallardo, we also had, we made some classroom changes, so some of those numbers are coming down a little bit. But if more people move in, those numbers will go up. And we know, based on where the homes are being built the quickest, that we're going to have more folks show up there. So at this point, we still have room. If you look at the maximum numbers, I know Mr. Ramirez, when he sends out the enrollment, he'll send out the maximum beside it. And we know which campuses are getting the closest to maximum, and we can say safely that Menchaca is our one that's getting the closest to maximum capacity. We've still got some capacity in our other campuses. We need more teachers to open up more classrooms, and right now, that's something that takes a little bit longer. I wish I could just go find a whole bunch of really qualified teachers to bring in. There are other things to keep in mind too, is, you know, how big is we have to have another teacher, and at what point is it better to bring another adult in to support that and not force that change in the classroom setting right now. So there's a lot of things at play right now in that. I want to make sure everybody knows that this is a very high priority for us to make sure that we keep these numbers manageable and down as low as we possibly can. But when we have uneven growth, that's what happens. You know, you can see that none of the other campuses except for Gallardo have first grade over. But then you can see that fourth grade, you know, freedom is not over, but they were at second grade. So it's one of those, overall numbers may manage out, but where they hit in a specific grade level don't. And then also, we may have 4 teachers at that grade level, 1 teacher teaches a dual language, and so that we don't touch that. I can't level into that. So it's more complicated than just taking a few off and creating another position, but it is something that we discuss on the regular. The principals keep us informed daily of the counts going on in there, and then we make the decision to post for additional positions. So one of the things we've done is we've kept an open posting for elementary teachers, and so when it hits like this, we've already got it posted, and we can start really pursuing applicants when we have a position like this available.
Thank you. Any other questions, Ms. Salazar?
On your pre-K4 at Menchaca, are we not capping the enrollment based on classrooms?
We are
Because
not
pre-K
allowed by law to cap pre-K4. We can cap pre-K3, but not pre-K4. We
Okay, so
cannot
explain the why.
turn
So explain the why for that.
So the state law just says you can't. If you have it, you have to have it. It's just like saying for kindergarten, if we have a student who lives in our boundaries and meets the criteria, age, et cetera, we accept them. So who we are not accepting now at Menchaca are anybody who's an out-of-district transfer and anybody who does not qualify for pre-K. So we've had people who in the past have been able to apply for a waiver, but we're not accepting waivers right now because we are full. But because it's pre-K4, only 4 do we have to take. Pre-K3, we do not have to take.
So when did we implement only within district students in pre-K4?
As we got full, that's when we talked to Mr. Ramirez and say, okay, we're full right now. We only accept out-of-district transfers if we have space.
So yes, that is correct. So, and I'm not sure if there are transfers in that grade level. I would have to go and check. District-wide, I think the number is 29 students that do not belong in the district. For the most part, those are children from actual employees who are working here. So it's not an exaggerated number district-wide. I would have to go back and check as far as how many are in pre-K4 that are out of district. So the space, even though Menchaca has already exceeded the capacity, because the capacity is at 900 students, they're at 913 students. So they came up with a plan to use the library to have the art and the music class. They have 2 libraries that are being used, which has alleviated the use of any additional classrooms. So that opened up really 100 more slots by using 2 classrooms in the library and 2 additional classrooms in the other library. My understanding of the pre-K4 is that it's only being exceeded by 2 or 3 students from these 8 classrooms. So students have come as recent as yesterday. We are at 5,998 students, if I'm not mistaken. So we're 2 students away from 6,000. But it's not something that happened from the summer, and we have months that we haven't employed additional teachers. It's something that the 22 just became over the 22 recently due to the influx of students that were coming in. But the posting has been open, and it has been open all this time. So as we get applicants, we're going to do the interviews and try to hire some additional teachers.
Okay. Ms. Morales Garcia.
Okay, so whenever you had said 913, I heard somebody whisper 916.
Is it 916?
So is it 916?
916.
Okay, so today we have 916 students. Where are we putting the overflow of students? Because we don't have enough classroom space.
Oh, we have enough classroom space right now. Like Mr. Ramirez said, we're being creative with extra spaces. So, for example, we've moved art and choir out of a classroom and created a new classroom there, and they'll have their art and their choir either going push into the classroom or in the library space where we also have technology lab. So we're trying to be creative like that. Everything that could be used as a classroom, we are using as a classroom.
our teachers, for both our regular teachers who have to teach a class in a classroom that's not as comfortable for them, but also for our teachers who are traveling with their art supplies and their music supplies.
I don't want to speak for all the teachers. I will just say that they have an incredibly positive attitude and they are doing their very best. We are not, that is not the ideal, right? The ideal is for us to have a proper classroom for every teacher that is equitable, right? That we all have the same type of classroom. But right now, how we are growing is tremendous. So that is something that we will need to address as a district and as a community of what do we want Menchaca to look like, because as long as it remains a pre-K campus with pre-K 4 and kindergarten, we have to take everybody. The only option we have is with pre-K 3. That is something totally optional that we offer that most districts do not. It's a very popular program. And, you know, we use quite a few classrooms for that as well. So, you know, in the past, you know, we've had some paraprofessionals who are working on their teaching credentials, and we'll have 2 of them in there. We've since hired some of those folks as teachers. So they're making the most of what we've got. But to say that this is ideal, it's not ideal. We're making the best of it. I think that the kids aren't suffering because of it. The teachers certainly would prefer to have a standard classroom. Everybody gets the same type of classroom. But due to size right now, that is just not something that we can do. So we try to make it as equitable as we can with what we've got right now, space-wise.
Okay, and then are we, so I know there was a situation where I saw we were encouraging parents to exercise like Head Start.
Yes, Head Start is a program that we already have in the district, we've had in the district, and they pay 50% of the salary of a teacher. So that assists the district. The only issue with Head Start is that they put a cap on the number of students that are allowed in the classroom. So it's below the 22 to 1. Is it 17? 17 students.
17 in pre-K 3, and is it 20 in pre-K 4?
So that's the only issue, but they do assist us with the salary, and they take care of the supplies, everything that's used in the classroom. So we like the collaboration, and it's something that we got 2 additional Head Start classrooms. One additional from what we had started.
Okay, last question, I promise. What is our out of school enrollment numbers? Like with that, like have we possibly considered maybe capping out open enrollment?
So again, open enrollment really is only impacting Menchaca at this point. But for example, if they were to come to, let's say they want to come to Pierce and they're in the 3rd grade, we would say, I'm sorry, we don't have room for Pierce, we have room in another campus. We're not over in every grade level at every campus. So they may have a preference for one campus, but if it's full, the priority always goes to the folks who live in the community who are in our attendance zones.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions for Dr. Spoor? Ms. Silva?
What age are the students who are in the libraries?
It is all of them.
3 and 4?
Pre-K 3, pre-K 4. It's us, our specials.
So it would be like the choir class, the music class, the art class, the technology class. So it's all of the students would come in there.
So like, you said there were 2 classes in the library. Are they both choir?
No, so because it's such an open area at, in our technology lab in our library, we were able to come up with a plan to bring our specials teachers together. And it's like our technology and our library is going to be together. And that helps out because they could still check out books, but they can also work on the computer. So that works out. In our other area, we are going to be putting our music and our art, but kind of make it like a makerspace specials group where they can do their art, but they can also create and do like the STEM activities in there. That gives us the ability to have our 2 adults, which are 2 teachers, plus the 2 additional aides that go with the classes. So that gives us a little bit more adult supervision in there. And it's an open area, and the kids are able to be monitored, and it's for them to be able to enjoy it. And we're able to do that versus putting classrooms with teachers in there. It is our specials classes.
I was asking because when I was going to school, we went to monitor Bob Hope. Bob Hope had no walls, and it was horrific because what a teacher was trying to teach here, the kids were looking at what the teacher was. So how is that, are they separate enough to where they don't?
They are, but if we needed to, we're able to put screens up, but with the teachers collaborating with each other and the 2 specials like that, it really isn't necessary.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, sorry, I just thought of a question.
Sure.
Sorry. If the classroom sizes in Menchaca continue to grow, will the waiver come back to us again to re-vote on it, or is it just like a one-off?
So the law says if we, for example, have kindergarten classes that go over, I need to come back and ask for another waiver. So the waivers are an ongoing flow. It's not a one and done. They say every 6 weeks that we go above, that we have to come back. So if it is the same classes that we've asked for a waiver, I don't. But if we have different classes, then we would come back for another waiver. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Spore.
Yes.
This time, do I have a motion for approval of item number 2?
I'll make a motion that we approve the application for the maximum class size waiver with TEA for 2023, 2024.
Okay, Ms. Katie Farias makes the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Silva makes the second motion. Ms. Farias?
Yes.
Ms. Olivares?
Yes.
Ms. Morales Garcia?
Abstain.
Ms. Salazar? Ms. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Aguirre Robles?
Yes.
And just unanimous, yes. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 3, discuss and consider approval and authorization to extend existing services with Beckwith Electronic Engineering Company for the purchase of fire alarm monitoring, fire alarm functional testing, fire alarm equipment repair, and security monitoring in the combined amount of $80,266. Superintendent Ramirez?
Mr. Board President, Beckwith Electronic Engineering provides service equipment for security and fire alarm monitoring. We have Mr. Garza, Mr. Monreal with a request to extend Beckwith Electronic Engineering services.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening, Board President Mr. Hernandez, Superintendent Mr. Ramirez, board members, and members of the community. The Purchasing Department and Facilities Department are requesting approval and authorization to extend existing services with Beckwith Electronic Engineering Company for the purchase of fire alarm monitoring, fire alarm functional testing, fire alarm equipment repair, and security monitoring in the combined amount of $80,266 through the Bi-Board Co-op Contract 647-21, as requested by the Facilities Department through Budget Code 19951-6299. And this is in support of the existing platform that we have in our district buildings. So this is requesting the extension to maintain the continuity of the existing systems. And I have Mr. Monreal here present.
Any questions for Mr. Monreal? Okay. At this time, do I have a motion for item number 3? So I just unanimously will make a motion to extend existing services with Beckwith Electronic Engineering Company for the purchase of fire alarm monitoring, fire alarm functional testing, fire alarm equipment repair, and security monitoring in the combined amount of $80,266. Do I have a second?
Can you rescind your motion?
Yes. At this
The reason
time.
I'm asking is because there are some questions, I just don't know where to go with it.
Sure, that's fair. At this time, I will rescind my motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion's rescinded. Going back to item number 3, do I have any questions?
So, is this the only, this is a continuation of an RFP? Or is this an RFP that we did and this is what we get?
Ms. Salazar, I believe this what was done previously, since it was under 50,000 when they were doing them individually. So they did, through the buy board, contract separately. So going forward, when we added security monitoring, the dollar value exceeded 50,000 cumulatively.
Yes.
So for transparency and letting the board know that we have this existing platform, we wanted to have the continuation with Beckwith under this buy board contract. So previously, I believe we didn't do the solicitation. It was based on the dollar value. They chose to Beckwith under the buy board co-op previously.
So how was Beckwith Electronic Engineering Company selected?
Good evening. The reason is because we have a standard, which is Edwards panel. It's an Edwards panel throughout the whole district, and they specialize in monitoring that particular panel. What happens is that when you go out to find another vendor, you don't find anyone in San Antonio other than to go to Houston, because it's a proprietary product that anyone to monitor that or put their hands into that type of equipment, it requires a dealer, and Beckwith is the dealer in the city of San Antonio. Competitively, they do not compete against each other. Vendors do not come across. Houston cannot come into their territory, and that is the agreement set forth by the companies that are representing Beckwith Electronics or Edwards Panels. So if we were to solicit, we would not get anyone to solicit in San Antonio. Then you would have a company outside that would not want to bid. That is just the way it would be.
Well, you don't know who wants to bid and who doesn't want to bid, so.
Well, in the sense that they couldn't monitor the Edwards panel. Like right now, I have a situation at Menchaca. That panel, Edwards cannot touch it. The dealer, when we built that school, that is a different model. They will not monitor it. So when I have to call a company to come out and fix that, I need to call the vendor for that to come and release, and that takes a month to get them to come and release the code for Beckwith, because Beckwith can't touch it. So Beckwith says, okay, you need to get the company out. They have to assertively change the code, give us the access. They don't give them the code. Then they come out. So what it causes is a delay, because we have things that go off, alarm panels go off, we have repeaters going off, and it becomes where it's bothersome to our students, because that's, they start beeping all over the place. So for continuity and for the way that we serve our customers, we have standardized to go to Edwards panel. That is what we've done throughout the district, and it puts us in a better position that when I go out for a competitive bid to put a panel, like right now, I can get elaborate with it. I can tell you that at Matthew, you have a different system there. That is about to go out. So for me to get a panel there, it's about $325,000. That's been the latest quote by going out to solicit bids for that. So we're gonna have to determine at some point what we're gonna do. Today I got news that Lozoya is about to end of life. And that has been beeping, and it does bother the campuses. It just irritates the heck out of them. So I need to determine, when I make recommendation to the superintendent, sir, what route are we gonna take? Do I replace the system? Because it is because it's an Edwards panel, all the sensors in that campus, all I need to do is buy the panel. And right now the quote is at $10,000, instead of having to change out the whole system like at Matthew. And that's why we've begun 8 years ago, since I took over, we have been standardizing things to the Edwards panel. And that's why we are in this situation. Otherwise, it becomes where we're at the mercy of a sole proprietors out there. So I have a little bit of leverage because I'm giving business now. There was another vendor in San Antonio that tried to bid on the job, a particular job, but they did not meet the criteria even halfway to be someone that could monitor us. And that's how it kind of came out to be, why we're making this recommendation.
I do thank you, Mr. Garza, for bringing this forward the way that you brought it, though, because that way the transparency level goes up, right? So, but there's still some questions, and I'll get with Soup on that.
I have a question. I kind of wish this was tied in with LaSoya and Matthew, because I don't know if it might be more affordable or cost-effective if we were to get all three done at once. But now that we know that, I mean, that's definitely a safety concern that their alarm is going off daily. I just have more questions now.
More questions?
Like, I don't even, I kind of wanted, is there any way we can maybe table this and come back after we see if it's better together?
So contract-wise, what are we looking at the contract? Is it expired month to month, or?
We are out of compliance at this time. Because of the fact that we have to have renewed this back in August, and that was the time frame that we had to present it. What happened, we didn't have the intruder alarms as part of the package, which is that keypad where we go into campuses. Before, it was always under 50 grand. What happened now is that we've added the police department's monitoring of the actual security. So that increase, and that's why we wanted to come to the board to say, gentlemen, ladies, this is what's happened now. Aggregately, we're now out over the 50,000 threshold. That's where we're at.
So-
And so that's what,
If we're already in August, it's too late. Why are we getting it now in September?
this was just collectively because of the new budget kicking in. We got a waiver from Beckwith not to report. The thing is that we got a not a certified letter, but we got an email that we must comply, otherwise it becomes costly. We have to go into what is called a fire watch. We would have to hire security officers then to be monitoring the campus, and that becomes another additional cost to the district. Those are some of the factors that come into play as we go along.
So by when does that have to happen?
August 31st was the deadline to submit this document. That's when it was due. So the renewal is September 1st. But right now, we've spoken to the fire marshal's office to let them know we're going to the board to get approval on this. And if you want to table it, then I can call them and ask for another extension, just to say, hey, we're in this need, there's questions the board has.
I think if maybe we can ask for another 6-day extension.
No, I was gonna ask you, can we pull it to the back under employee? Can we pull the agenda item and move it to the back under one of your 551s? I don't have all your 551s here. Maybe not. I don't think she puts it on there. Do you have all of your 551.0?
0.071.
I don't know if it would be that.
Point 07.
I've asked them to pull the item to be able to take it to the back for discussion under one of the 551.0, but I don't have all of them listed up here.
I have to look them up myself, and I don't know that this qualifies,
Is it?
as contracts. It is a bit, I'm not gonna give legal advice, unfortunately.
Is it 551.0701?
It can be done like
What's
that.
legal advice?
So, but if
Oh, yeah, it's safety and student issues, 551.701.
Okay.
Is that the correct one?
Safety and legal.
Give me 1 second.
I think it's 551.701. If somebody could clarify that, that would be great.
Give me 1 second. Superintendent, go ahead.
So just to be clear with the board, the option is that Beckwith, if the board is interested in a solicitation, and if Mr. Monreal is reporting that nobody else service our system, so the likelihood would be that no one would be part of that solicitation other than Beckwith. The other option is to replace the equipment, and from what Mr. Monreal has gathered, it's over $300,000 per campus. Now, the idea was to make sure that everything was included. The security monitoring wasn't part of it, and that's why now it exceeded the $50,000. The fire alarm is something that needs to be monitored. Going into a fire watch would mean that you have to have an employee standing there just solely for the purpose that if there is any kind of issue, that employee is responsible to call the fire department. That's the sole responsibility and only thing that that employee can do. So options would be that either we leave it for Monday so we can gather more information and can, Mr. Monreal can bring documentation showing that Beckwith is the only company that can serve that system, and we can provide that in writing, or to make a decision today. I would say that if there are questions from the board, that we can leave it for Monday so Mr. Monreal can gather that documentation and bring it in writing, showing that Beckwith is the only company that can serve the system that we currently have.
Yes, ma'am.
Because historically, this was done individually through the Vibe organization, it was under 50,000. But since we added these security monitoring, so if we do a solicitation and we award to another contractor, as Mr. Monreal has said, it's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that's okay, because they have to retrofit and implement. But going forward, we're going to have to pay that other company these annual monitoring fees as well, because now we have an existing new platform to maintain continuity with the new contracting vendor. So we're going to be in the same scenario on renewals annually.
I do want to add that currently, we do not have very good AT&T service out here with the copper lines when it rains. We have false alarms every single day. We have installed through the Beckwith the Verizon network, which helps us to have less frequent fire alarms going off. And so when you do have to go change, if we were to go the route of changing, we're going to have to change the cell service as well. We're going to have to do that. We're going to have to spend money on every panel to change out the card that goes to that Verizon. We're asking for some things that are going to be costly to the district, and we're not trying to do that by any means. You know, we're just trying to keep it consistent. Beckwith has been with the district for such a long time servicing us. It's nothing more than just determining what decision the board would like to follow. And I'm happy to report on Monday whatever questions or whatever I need to get so that we can get this decision, you know, to the company, so then they can report us to the fire marshal to say they're in compliance as a district. Right now, we're okay. They did allow us to continue. I don't know about an extension. I would have to talk to the fire marshal, and he'd be the one to determine, you know, what's the next step there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Monreal. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to postpone definitely this item. So I'll be making the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
So Jess Hernandez makes the motion, Ms. Lisa Salazar seconds. Ms. Farias?
Yes.
Ms. Olivares?
Yes.
Ms. Morales Garcia?
Yes.
Ms. Salazar?
Yes.
Ms. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Arango Robles?
Yes.
And I just Hernandez, yes. So we'll go ahead and table this motion, and we'll follow up at a later meeting to be scheduled. Thank you. Okay, Okay, moving on to item number 4, discuss and consider approval and authorization to reject the bid submitted by Fidis Logistics Solutions Incorporated for not bidding as specified and award to Reliance Air and Refrigeration LLC for the purchase of the high school cafeteria event hood. Superintendent Ramirez?
Mr. Board President, we have Mr. Garza Ramirez with a request for a purchase of the high school cafeteria event hood.
Thank you, sir. And we did modify this recommendation. So the Purchasing Department and Child Nutrition Department are requesting authority to award to Reliance Air Refrigeration LLC for the purchase of a high school cafeteria vent hood in the amount of $179,800 through Budget Code 6239. The scope of work includes a turnkey solution of removing the existing vent hood and replace it with a new unit in accordance with solicitation specifications. And I have Ms. Ramirez present.
Welcome, Mr. Ramirez.
Hello, welcome. The current vent hood that we have at the high school, it's the original from the kitchen when it was built. Originally, right now, we're grandfathered in. We are purchasing new kitchen equipment that is gonna come in there, and that equipment, the current vent hood will not be covered, will not be grandfathered in anymore, and that's why we went out and as part of the spending fund balance, this is what we're requesting that to be replaced.
Thank you, Ms. Ramirez. Any question for Ms. Ramirez? No questions? At this time, do I have a motion for approval of item number 4?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we award to Reliance Air and Refrigeration LLC for the purchase of a high school cafeteria vent hood in the amount of $179,800 as requested by Child Nutrition Department through Budget Code 6239-001-240, right?
Thank you. Ms. Salazar makes the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Anger Robles seconds. Ms. Farias?
Yes.
Ms. Olivares?
Yes.
Ms. Morales Garcia?
Yes.
Ms. Salazar?
Yes.
Ms. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Anger Robles?
Yes.
And just unanimous. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Ramirez.
Thank you.
Ms. Garza. Moving on to item number 5, discuss and consider approval of the adoption of the tax rate for 2023. Superintendent Ramirez?
Mr. Board President, we have our interim CFO, Mr. Garza, with a presentation for the request for the adoption of the tax rate.
Welcome again, Mr. Garza.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The information that I will be presenting to you is basically an exact replica of what provided in the hearing. So with your indulgence, I can go through the whole thing again, or I can indicate to you that the information as provided in the public hearing is respective of the fact that we are presenting the same information. We basically had no comments from the public. We had an opportunity to review it as well. I can go item by item as we wish. If you have any additional questions, or I can answer any questions. But it's basically the same information approving the new tax rate for the upcoming year, which has been previously discussed.
Thank you, Mr. Garza. Any questions for Mr. Garza on the proposed tax rate? Okay. At this time, do I have a motion for approval or consideration of item number 5?
I'll make a motion to adopt the tax rate of 1.104234 per 100 valuation, 0.775350 for maintenance and operations, and 0.328884 for interest and sinking.
Thank you. Ms. Salazar makes the motion. Do I have a second? Ms. Silva makes seconds. Ms. Farias?
Yes.
Ms. Olivares?
Yes.
Ms. Morales Garcia?
Yes.
Ms. Salazar?
Yes.
Ms. Silva?
Yes.
Mr. Anger Robles?
Yes.
And I just unanimous, yes. Motion carries. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you so
Garza.
much.
Moving on to item number 6, discuss and consider approval and authorization to execute a negotiated contract between the District and Garza, Gonzalez Associates for professional auditing services in the annual amount of $82,000. Superintendent Ramirez?
So, Board President, we have Mr. Garza with a request to approve the district auditor contract of Garza, Gonzalez and Associates.
Thank you, sir. The Purchasing Department previously issued a request for qualifications under Texas Government Code Chapter 224 for professional services. The board had interviews with the 4 firms that responded on July 19th, 2023, resulting in Garza Gonzalez as the highest ranked firm. So negotiations were conducted, and a contract was being forwarded for consideration. And so the recommendation is to request authorization to execute an agreement between the District and Garza, Gonzalez Associates for the purchase of professional auditing services for the annual audit report in the annual amount of $82,000. Additional professional auditing and accounting services shall be in accordance with professional service agreement, which is referenced in page 5, section 4, under compensation, and page 3, extra work and services. Additional professional services shall not exceed $50,000 without prior board approval.
Thank you, Mr. Garza. At this time, do I have any questions for Mr. Garza? Ms. Silva?
What's the contract for?
We usually do the contracts for 1 year with options to extend. All our contracts have a termination for convenience clause, but it's for a 1 year period, ma'am.
Mr. Garza, is there an option to extend for X amount of years? Or?
Yeah, not to exceed 5 years. Yes, sir. On an annual basis with board approval.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Garza. At this time, do I have a motion for consideration for item number 6?
I make a motion. I make a motion to approve and authorize execution of an agreement between the District and Garza, Gonzalez Associates for the purchase of professional auditing services for the annual audit report in the annual amount of $82,000. Additional professional auditing and accounting services shall be in accordance with the professional service agreement, page 5, section 4, compensation, and page 3, extra work and services. Additional professional services shall not exceed $50,000 without prior board approval.
Thank you, Ms. Morales Garcia makes the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Katie Farias seconds. Ms. Farias?
Yes.
Ms. Olivares?
Yes.
Ms. Morales Garcia?
Yes.
Ms. Salazar?
Yes.
Ms. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Sangre Robles?
Yes.
And I just, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Garza. Moving on to item number 7, discuss and consider approval and authorize the final contract extension between the district and Reliance Air Refrigeration for maintenance and repair of commercial kitchen equipment on an as-needed basis at the hourly rate of $79, beginning upon board approval and ending August 31st, 2024. Superintendent Ramirez.
The board president, we have Mr. Garza Ramirez with a request for a contract extension on Reliance Air for the repair and maintenance of kitchen equipment.
Thank you, sir. In FY 2022, the purchasing department advertised a request for proposal, and they're resulting in an award with Reliance Air Refrigeration. We're in our last year to renew, so the recommendation is to approve and authorize a final contract extension between the district and Reliance Air Refrigeration for maintenance and repair of commercial kitchen equipment as needed, as an on-needed basis, in the estimated annual amount of $72,000, beginning upon board approval and ending August 31st, 2024. And I have Ms. Ramirez present.
Welcome again, Ms. Ramirez.
Thank you. Y'all have any questions for me?
Any questions for Ms. Ramirez?
With all that new equipment coming, you shouldn't need them very often.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say, just for a couple of years.
Yes, definitely. Okay, at this time, do I have a motion for item number 7?
I'll make a motion that we approve and authorize the final contract extension between the district and Reliance Air and Refrigeration for maintenance and repair for commercial refrigeration, for maintenance and repair of commercial kitchen equipment on an as-needed basis in the estimated annual amount of $72,000, beginning upon board approval and ending August 31, 2024, as requested by the Child Nutrition Department.
Thank you, Ms. Lisa Salazar makes the motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Ms. Margarita Morales seconds. Ms. Farias?
Yes.
Ms. Olivares?
Yes.
Ms. Morales Garcia?
Yes.
Ms. Salazar?
Yes.
Ms. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Sangre Robles?
Yes.
And just unanimous. Yes, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 8, discuss and consider approval and authorization of a budget amendment for fiscal year 3 and fiscal year 4 in the amount of $371,593.26. Superintendent Ramirez.
Mr. Board President, we're requesting a budget amendment for the Child Nutrition Department to pay for kitchen equipment and tables that were previously requested and approved, but did not arrive before the end of fiscal year 3. And we have Mr. Garza Ramirez with a presentation.
Yes, thank you. It's a child nutrition fund, so it is a federal program. So it stands alone, it does not affect local. As a result of that, the funding needs to be considered, and the budget amendment is just a mechanical process to be able to bring the money over, to be able to make that purchase that is needed for our child nutrition, to be able to meet the needs of our children.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Garza or Ms. Ramirez?
I have a question. Are we just cloning our requisition over to the new year on the purchases?
They closed it out. We're going to go back through the process of reestablishing it. It's not an issue. As long as we make the budget amendment, because it stays within the same fund. So if it was something else, it would be very difficult.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. At this time, do I have a motion for approval of item number 8?
I'll make a motion that we approve the budget amendment for fiscal year 3 and fiscal year 4 for the amount of $371,593.26.
Ms. Katie Farias makes the motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, Ms. Morales Garcia seconds. Ms. Farias?
Yes.
Ms. Olivares?
Yes.
Ms. Morales Garcia?
Yes.
Ms. Salazar?
Yes.
Ms. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Rangel Robles?
Yes.
And just unanimous, yes. Motion carries. And
Did you want to speak to it and say if we can just?
okay, moving on to item number 9, discuss and consider approval of the adoption of the 2022-2023 budget amendment. Superintendent?
Mr. Board President, we have Mr. Garza that will give an update to the budget amendment for the 22-23 budget.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity. The final amendment budget is due by the end of the month, but necessarily, I've only been here a few days, so I've been looking at numbers. I need to revisit those numbers. I want to make sure that I don't have to come back to the board. So it is our hope that you will allow us to present the final amended budget, because we have to go in there and prepare the budget, as I indicated earlier, that there's things that are still happening. So the numbers are not final. There is a regulation within the TEA that, quote, as we exceed the final amended budget, then they can warn us that we exceeded it, and then after a few years, they'll sanction us. It is my intent to avoid even one exceeding of the budget. So I want to be able to look at it, make the changes. We're doing some drawdowns. We're moving budgets around. I'm looking at the budget so that we can adjust the budget now and not quote what in the layman's terms, bust the budget. Because then TEA will send us a letter after Garza Gonzalez comes in. I have a meeting scheduled with Garza Gonzalez tomorrow morning to go over this, to make sure that does not happen. So with your approval, we'd like an extension until Monday.
Thank you, Mr. Garza. Any questions for Mr. Garza? So at this time, I'd like to make a motion to postpone definitely for a future date, which will be Monday. So I just here now will make the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Lisa Salazar seconds. Ms. Farias?
Yes.
Ms. Olivares?
Yes.
Ms. Morales Garcia?
Yes.
Ms. Salazar?
Yes.
Ms. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Rangel Robles?
Yes.
And just Hernandez? Yes. Thank you. We look forward to talking
Thank
on
you very
Monday.
much.
Okay, that wraps up all our new items. At this time, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Ms. Katie Farias makes a motion. I just Hernandez will second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ms. Robles? Ms. Silva?
I'm sorry, aye.
Ms. Silva? All right. Okay. The time is now 7:33 p.m. and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.